you don't get your money back. It was a saving plan. And usually it was the wives who actually made it happen. The husband had to build it. But usually what happened was the wife would make the husband do this because otherwise he would go and drink it away and yeah. But it was a saving plan. So in 20 years' time, you have this larger house that now your bigger extended family can live in. It's saving. But Bitcoin's better. Bitcoin without caps, open to the world, is better. Not so that people can run their own node and run around going, I've got my own node. It matters that you have your own money. No one can take your financial freedom because you have your keys. So, where it all started. Everyone knows the little history here. We had this whole 2008 bit, lots of people involved, not so many lots, but a few people like Bear still exist and pop up every now and again and then get shot down and trolled to buggery before he disappears once again. But the idea was this thing here votes with computing power. And the fallacy is, and why a few people like Greg Maxwell say Bitcoin couldn't work back in the day, it's not democratic. $1, one vote. Capitalism isn't democratic, but it is free. It is free because my $1 has the same rights as his $1. If I'm a billionaire, my dollar has the same rights to a pack of gum as his dollar. If I'm a pauper, my dollar has the same rights to her dollar. That's what it is. That's freedom. Not because I can be equal and force other people to do things, but the truth that it matters that I can actually have my money, not have it eroded by inflation, which is a big one. And that's a huge one. Most of the world's economies have been actually deflationary, contrary to what people try and tell you. The Roman Empire, for a long time, was deflationary. The amount of money supply was actually always less until about the 3rd century AD than the amount of silver and gold that they were actually implementing to run everything, which makes it deflationary. That was the problem. We had a government who decided that they could shave and skim and mix more silver into the electrum, and no one would notice, apart from one little problem. You notice. If someone's making your coins later, you notice. So, what have we got? We've got this world where we've got these things, and I need to update this because 3 months and all these figures are wrong. We've got 71,000 hours of Pandora, 250 million emails, 80 million photos, and that's in the last minute. That's what the internet does. This thing that when I was involved back in the early 90s, people said could never scale. Back then it seemed like it wouldn't. We had all these little slow modems and everything like that, and everyone said how the internet's terrible, it will never scale. I worked for an ISP called Pegasus, and then I worked for one called Aussie Mail, and we were told how you can't scale the internet. You've got to move over to X500 type protocols and cellular type transmissions because the internet's not efficient. Unfortunately, it did, and it is. And we have all these new technologies, sort of silly Gartner thing there, where everything's been connected. My house, I'm terrible. My wife hates it because everything gets connected. Light bulbs, literally, not figuratively. Light bulbs are connected. The lights themselves are connected. I've got a window wiping robot because, well, you can. It doesn't actually get used because my wife actually likes the cleaner that we have. So I've got my gadget that I try and wheel out every now and again, and it usually just sits there until guests come over and I can show off how a robot can clean my window, and then it gets wheeled away. But we have all these things happening. So what do we have? We've got storage. First of all, it's an immutable ledger. It is history. Not because people think that's only for settlement use or whatever else, but because it can be used like it was early on for all sorts of records. We have digital assets or tokens. Ethereum only exists because people refuse to actually allow Bitcoin to do this stuff. The only reason. We have smart contracts, automatic validation, external things. All of this can run on Bitcoin. And it's not now because we've been saying we can't scale. We have been for nearly 10 years saying we can't scale. In those nearly 10 years, IT has increased massively. Moore's Law is working. I've got a paper coming out soon. It's in peer review at the moment. I had to pull it and update it because when I put out the paper, I was commenting on how a 3 nanometer transistor had been discovered. And before the peer review process finished, some university over in South Korea discovered a 1.5 nanometer transistor. Right now, there's this thing called the 5.5 nanometer gate limit in physics. We cannot make a transistor smaller than 5.5 nanometers. There's only one little problem. We have 1.5 nanometers. We have. And scientists sit there going, but it can't work because quantum tunneling, yada, yada, yada. Theory says it isn't allowed to work. Except one little problem. It does. It's been replicated not only on the 3, but now on a 1.5. And we can sit there all day saying, human ingenuity will only get us so far. Except, where are we? We are in the golden age. The first, the only, the most magnificent part of human history. The only time we have a chance to cure poverty. The only time we have a chance to open up the world to trade, to stop war, to stop all these things. We are in the richest, wealthiest, most productive part of human existence that 200 years ago, even Jules Verne type people, whatever else, he's only 100 and whatever years ago, but even 100 years before Jules Verne, no one imagined. 100 years later with Jules Verne, he still didn't imagine. He had silly things out there that, we laugh at now. And he thought of a big submarine that could go underneath the underneath the ocean and even go underneath the poles. Anyone been up to somewhere like Archangel in Russia? No? I went there back in the 90s. And it's actually a submarine thing on the White Sea. And they basically, so the Americans don't see them, they go straight out under the Arctic in submarines that go for 6 to 9 months underwater without having to surface. Which beats anything Mr. Jules Verne actually thought of. So we have it. Now, we have this little computation rate. It doubles. Every 18 months, we double in computation. Every 15 months, we double in storage. And it's actually accelerating. It's not an even scale. It's actually getting faster, not slower, is the scary bit if you look at the real thing. But here's the other thing. It compounds. We are not just putting more transistors on a chip. We are building more chips. We are not just building computers with more transistors, we are building more chips in everything. You get glasses now with chips. You get sunglasses with chips. I'm sure someone watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with the whole glasses that go black because people have got sort of chip glasses now that change for different reasons based on your mood and emotion. Someone came up with an extension to a product called MindPlay, which measures alpha waves and decided to play music when you feel certain ways, whether you like it or not. Don't ask me why, but we do it. So every 5.2 months right now, we double the rate of computational power on this earth. Not Moore's law, faster. What we have, lots of people say we're going to hit limits. We've said that all through, like back there in 2005, Mr. Moore said, by 2005 we'll hit a limit. He got his own law wrong. Let's see, we've got these other guys. Now, some of the guys over at CERN are basically giving up and saying, well, 2600 sounds good because then we hit the speed of light. And if we hit the speed of light, we don't think we'll get faster than that, so that's the end of Moore's law. Which, that's probably a good one. But I figure I'm probably not going to worry about 2600. I mean, I used to read Alt 2600, but I don't think I'll be here in that many years. So we need to think about what Bitcoin can do, not what we think it is attacking, not that it will break things, not that we tear down society. I'm not like many cypherpunks. I don't want to burn anything down. I want to build. I don't really care if banks exist or don't. I care that they're honest. I care that people have access to money. I care that businesses have access to equity. So, Holy Grail, no trust points. That's been our big problem, even with Bitcoin. How do we protect things? How do we ensure that we hold our keys? How do we ensure that someone doesn't do a Mt. Gox on us? That's a problem. How do I make sure I can't lose my keys? The more copies I have, the safer I am, and the risk increases. So it's a double-edged sword. So, what do we have? We have Bitcoin, which is our first brick. The reality is, it gives us a way of having an immutable ledger. It doesn't give us everything. It doesn't solve the world's problems. It doesn't distribute capital. It doesn't allow us to even be safe because our public keys are still easy to lose, to be stolen, to be copied, to be compromised. They still sit on exchanges. So, we had these guys, nice little fun photo there, the guy with the Mt. Gox, where is my money? Everyone remembers that one, I'm sure. Exchanges and web wallets hold your keys. That's a problem. They have control. Yes, they have passwords. Everyone remember Equinox? It's only a few weeks old now. Lots and lots of accounts being hacked. This is what we expect in the current model. It's why it's wrong. We need to change this. One of the things that we have patented and we're going to release, and we're going to be mean, nasty, and totally evil, and only let it out on Bitcoin unless you pay us lots of money. So everyone hates it at work because my business strategy is the same one I've had from Australia that everyone said is not a real business strategy. It's the underpant gnome strategy, which is Bitcoin, number 2, stuff, number 3, profit. Very simple. And number 2 is easy enough too. We're going to make sure, not that we have a group of followers. I don't want followers. I want leaders. I want people who will grab ideas and run with them. And we will help. We will help with code, with IP and all the rest. And Stefan's nodding there. And we're already doing that with a few organisations. And no, I'm not going to tell you who they are quite yet. So we've got these things that I've got in these slides here, like thresholds. And after I was in Hong Kong, I had a guy from IBM come up to me and go, "You can't do this." And I went, "Sorry, why? We've got a patent on it." He went, "I'm from IBM and we've been working on this for years and we haven't solved it, so you can't do it." And I went, "But I have done it." And he went, "No, if we can't solve it, then you can't." But everyone loves Big Blue, don't they? So anyway, we're not just doing a threshold. We're not just doing it in a normal Shamir methodology. The bits people haven't seen